Happy New Year. On this episode, we have a recap of the last year's health, wellness, motivation, fitness, mindset. Did I already say that? Episodes and clips from our guests so that this way you can kind of go back in. You can listen to some of the best of moments. And if you want to listen to the full episodes, then I'll outline those in the show notes below and you can have timestamps if you want to listen to something specific. And I just think this is a great way to start the new year, whether you are working on your health and fitness, you are wanting to, lose weight, build muscle, work on your hormones, get a swift kick in the ass to get some motivation. I love a good swift kick in the ass. I'm like a tough love kind of a broad. If you are needing any of that, I think this episode is packed full of those moments and we're going to get into it. First clip is a solo episode where you can kind of see, I think, the evolution of where I am now. And just so you know, I do have an updated episode for the most part about weird wellness things that I'm into, and I discuss thoroughly about the protein intake that I've been doing. But this episode kind of outlines a brief explanation about how I had lost 50 pounds and now a 60-pound weight loss. And what that looked out, my reasons why, my tips for doing that, and what I've done to since then elevate and push myself with that, and kind of getting into a flow of figuring out intuitive eating and what that looks for me personally.
Especially this last year, I've really taken and honed in my body, and I've been able to maintain. So if you listen to episode 20, I share how I lost 50 pounds. And that's like my major transformation and everything that I went through. So if you're curious of wow, how'd you do that? I talk about what I did, my hormones that I checked, how my eating was, my workouts, my mindset. I go through everything, like the nitty-gritty of it. And I've been able to maintain that, which has been really, really nice. And I think always pushing myself too. I think I continue over the years to it's been a slow, steady burn, get better. But the last couple months especially, I've really tried to hone in on okay, what more can I do? And I'm feeling I'm really noticing certain things and adding new things in, which I think is important with your health and fitness, is going through and auditing and switching stuff up a little bit. It's important so you're not plateaued. I'm grateful that I was able to maintain where I am, and I think that's super important with your health and fitness. But these are some things that I really think have elevated stuff and helped my endurance and my cardio, because I noticed even my running now compared to last year and the year prior is just my heart rate doesn't spike so much. My breathing's more under controlled. I feel stronger in my pace and my stance. I don't know all the technical terms. And that's really surprised me, because when I started adding some running into my routine, I was honestly kind of blown away with huh, that actually makes me happy instead of being pissed off at the end of the day. So these are what I've been doing the last couple months with my health and my nutrition. And I've noticed big changes in my body composition too, meaning I've noticed even in my face. I mean, right now it's not the best example because I'm a little swollen from being sick. But even I noticed my jawline's more defined. My nose isn't as swollen. Does anyone else get swollen nose? I know that happens after I drink wine. But and then also inflammation in my stomach area. I'm wait, what? Definition. You don't look in the mirror and do the same thing, please. But these are what I have been doing. And I've just really enjoyed it. And my eating had also made me feel very satiated, which is a big thing because your girl gets hangry. So with nutrition, my focus recently has been on protein. And I've always known this is important, but the last couple months, I have honed in so hard on my protein. That's honestly been my main focus when it comes to my eating, because the other things, I feel throughout time, I've learned to find what works well for my body and also my portions. And protein was something that I was that is my only focus. And it was easy to build stuff around my protein. And by protein, I mean real protein too. I have been eating so much meat. And this, I think, is where my satiation, is that a word? I'm more satiated. I know that's a word. Anyways, I'm more satiated because of the meat and the real protein and the real fats and the real amino acids that I'm taking in. And when I am talking about meat, I'm having it breakfast, lunch, dinner. Sometimes like a snack in between and or eggs. So one of my favorite meals, and you've probably seen me post on Instagram, is, and it's something my body craves daily, is doing one egg, like 5 egg whites because we have chicken. So I'm using the eggs that we have, and thank God we have chickens because we're eating so much eggs lately. But I'll do that with ground meat that I've already prepped, and I'll do 4 to 6 ounces of ground meat, make a scramble with that, and then I love mustard. This is when you know you're like really honing in on your eating, is either mustard or hot sauce. I just bought a horseradish mustard and it's so delicious. It gives a different flavor, or the spicy brown mustard, and put that on there. My body is just so happy with that. And I have noticed that like my endometriosis doesn't feel as inflamed either. And yeah, and my periods have been better the last couple months too, which is nice. I know. Yeah, no. So lots of protein. So if you're someone that's like, you've kind of figured out your eating, you're doing a good job at that, and you're still feeling like, okay, what else can I do? I would ask you to like truly be honest with yourself and look at your protein intake and see how you're doing there. Because even though I felt like I was really focused, once I started actually, especially after you've been intuitively eating for a while, I think it's easy to forget about how much protein you should be eating. So, meats that we currently love, obviously, we have our ground elk, our ground venison, we have bear, antelope, I already said deer. So, those are kind of the ones that are in my freezer all the time, and thank God for that. And then also, I like to keep frozen shrimp on hand, chicken thighs. I just do all the frozen stuff so that it doesn't go, bad unless I'm buying it for that day because I don't know, it's just whatever. And then also salmon, we also have been buying pollock, and that's really good. Yeah, if anyone has any great suggestions for getting good seafood at an inland state, that would be appreciated because I don't know. Yeah, so just like all the meats. You forget, and there's like pork. I'm not a big pork fan. Turkey, bacon, just all the meat, all the meat. And then I would ask yourself too, I really tried to focus on like what vegetables, because even though I was eating whole foods like fruits and vegetables, asking yourself to pay attention to maybe like what's not making you feel good. Just because it's healthy doesn't mean that your body loves it and accepts it. So for instance, you guys know I'm allergic to potatoes, but so many people, potatoes is a big staple in their diets, even for like bodybuilders and competitors. I can't have it. And I'm finding that to be true too with like a lot of vegetables and fruits. I found taking apples out has helped my bloating a lot. And I'm really just focusing, especially, I think this is important when you know your body, like berries. My body loves berries. Again, cherries, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and I am doing well with mango. And then as far as vegetables go, like a romaine lettuce or arugula, and broccoli and cauliflower, I do fine with those. And then kind of outside of that, I do notice I'm like really paying attention to what's not working. So my current diet is, it feels really simplified, and I wouldn't even call it a diet. It's like, and it's interesting too that those are my favorite foods. So it makes it easy to eat that way too, because it's like I have that in my fridge and I love it. My body loves it. Like, what more blueberries, more steak? So I would go through, and now that you are eating well, pay attention to even the healthy foods that you're eating. If something maybe is making you feel gassy, or you notice you're eating something and like maybe your digestion isn't on, or you're feeling a little inflamed by eating that, go through and figure out what that is. So again, a whole bunch of meats. I'm eating select vegetables that my body likes, and pretty much berries, every once in a while a banana. And this is kind of just my for now. I like, my energy is wild, and it's odd for me to not be hangry. Like, it's weird for me to be able to concentrate and feel fueled and not like I'm having to focus on like, what's my next little snack? What's this? What's that? And that goes a long ways. I was going to check Instagram question boxes. Okay, we have a few. What tips do you have for starting? I would say tips would be figuring out, it's the cliche, but like it's a cliche, I think, for a reason because it works, figuring out your why. For me, this was, and I mentioned this in the first episode that I recorded. For me, this was because I no longer was feeling like me. I would look at a picture of myself and not recognize her, first off, like physically not recognize her. And then, second off, when I physically couldn't recognize her, it dawned on me why mentally I wasn't feeling like myself, if you will. I was like, that makes sense now. That checks, because I no longer had the energy to just be me. Like, I had literally lost myself. Um, and so my biggest reason why is I wanted to feel like me again. I wanted to be able to have the energy to keep up with my boys. I wanted to be able to go outdoors and do the things like I used to just say no because I didn't even have the energy to walk up like a little side bank to get up to where we were going to go fishing or something like that. And then my why kind of adapted and grew into like goals. But that's my ultimate why is I had to put on my oxygen mask for myself so then I could take care of my family too. So I would say figuring out your why and then do baby steps so that you can meet those. Because when you're feeling accomplished, I think it's easier for you to continue, keep going. And yes, again, you should challenge yourself, obviously. If you're new here, I like to push myself, but baby steps. And then you can always build upon those. So for me, I started off with like, okay, checking my hormones because I could tell something wasn't wrong. That was one step. And then once that was done, then I made sure that I was going for a walk every day and I was getting a workout in, going to a workout class because that gave me accountability. And I did that for a couple months. And then once that was all set in stone, then I knew it was time for me to decide to get a nutrition coach because now I needed to focus on my nutrition. And then I focused on that for another set of months. So just doing like little steps throughout a couple months, I think really helps. And all that time's going to pass anyways, and all those things add up. So those would be some of my big tips.
This next episode, I brought Jeremey Black back in to Best Ofs because I felt like this clip is perfect for not only our hunting audience, but our male audience. And he discusses getting his health and wellness back now that he's in his 40s and what that looks like and how it's different. Plus, just taking a realization about what kind of health and endurance it takes to be able to go out hunting and tips that he has along the way. He also discusses, for some motivational advice, what books he recommends being in a leadership position in the construction industry and what that looks like and how it benefits not just within his work and with his guys, but also in his marriage and with his kids.
I also, when Cody and I have talked in the past before about you coming on, he's like, sorry, Cody.
I'm like, what's he setting me up for?
I'm going to give him some compliments from you that you didn't hear. That you have talked to Jeremey about leadership skills. But I do remember when Cody was getting into like a leadership position because we met Jeremey through Cody working is essentially how we became hunting buddies. But I do remember you recommended him like an audiobook too when he first got into leadership position. And I think that went a long ways for him. Are there any like tips you have? Because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, obviously, and then a lot of like just, you know, your regular blue collar guys. Are there any audiobooks or podcasts that you would recommend, or books in general, that have really helped you in your role the last few years?
So the book, I recommend Cody. I've listened to that thing I don't know how many times, and I still go through and pick something up with it. Is that
something new?
And it's Extreme Ownership, you know, and that and honestly, I'll be honest, when I first read that book, it was kind of forced upon me.
Oh, really?
At work.
Oh, work. Okay.
To read the book, because I'm not a big reader. I like my magazines and stuff like that, but I'm not a big reader.
Gonna sit down and read a book.
Yeah, and the podcast. So I've listened to Jocko on a few podcasts and some of his tips, and just looking at it at a bigger scale of what they do. I'm like, work's not that difficult.
Yeah.
And just owning your mistakes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Goes a long
lead
ways.
by example. Don't be forcing anybody to do stuff that you won't do, you know. And I don't know. I think the biggest thing people struggle with leadership is they everybody wants that, and everybody, but with leadership comes hard decisions with people, and it's being able to be upfront with people
Mm-hmm.
and real with people, but not personal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always the time kidding around and giving people crap, but a lot of people struggle with
Separating that.
yeah. And if there's an issue, dealing with the issue
Mm-hmm.
and being a leadership in it, because otherwise,
yeah.
I mean, accountability is huge. Everybody wants and thrives off accountability, no matter what you think about.
Mm-hmm. Accountability goes a long ways.
It goes a long ways. Marriage is everything.
Oh yeah.
There's accountability in everything.
Yeah.
And if there's no accountability and stuff, you kind of get just stuck in a rut. I was like, why does it matter? Why is it?
Yeah. There's nothing worse than being
Like,
stuck in
it
there.
doesn't matter if I even come up. They won't know. If I came to work, they don't know.
Yeah.
But it seems kind of weird. But, you know, even myself, I'm like, geez, I wonder if I didn't come to work today sometimes. Would they even notice? Like, you get stuck in that kind of rut, you know? But good leadership, you know, you're always, people notice your work, whether it's good or bad, and there's some accountability in both ways, good and bad, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. And that goes through, like you said, through marriage and relationships, everything in life.
Kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Kids. That'll teach you a whole other set of lessons.
And it's being consistent with people, because you can't just ignore something and then go. I mean, sad, but I compare it to like dogs. In a way, training a dog, you know?
Yeah.
You tell the dog to sit like 5 times and don't do anything. And you're like, then you go over there and tell it to sit again, and then it doesn't, and it has no idea. It's so confused because it doesn't know what's going on. But us people are similar.
Yeah, we are.
It's like, why is he screaming at me about this last time? He didn't say anything the last 10 times.
Yeah. It's true.
You know?
Good dog analogy. Yeah. I always think of it like kids too. Like,
yeah,
you know, disciplining them is the same with working with people as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And I hate to go like on the bad part of things about discipline and stuff, but praising people too. Like, one big thing, and I'm trying to remember who told me this, is years ago. There's been a lot of guys in my life that's taught me things, but there was this thing that's always praise in public, reprimand in private.
I like that. Yeah, praise goes a long ways too.
And guys need that just as much as they need other stuff or more.
Yeah. I think that goes a long ways, especially in something like the construction industry too, because it's so, just from what I've seen, you know, I grew up with my dad in it, and Cody, and like when they get a compliment throughout the day, it's like, oh shit, I'm so used to getting yelled at sometimes.
Yeah. And stick to what you tell people.
Yeah.
Do what you say you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Or don't say it.
I love that. Just life in general, Jeremy.
Right.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's one of the big things. Like, if you can tell me you're gonna do something, do it. If I tell you I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. I love that. That kind of leads into my last question for you, I guess. I am big on health and wellness around here, and I want to be having more conversations with my audience, especially like the male audience, about wellness. And I think you're someone too that, like, over the years, you've realized like you have to take care of yourself if you want to go out and do things.
Yeah.
Are there certain things that you've noticed over the years of like, oh, shit, maybe I should work out, or I should eat a certain way, because time catches up with you, and we want to be able to go and explore for ourselves, and then also with our kids. Do you have any things that you've found over the couple of years that have helped you?
So
your wellness?
Definitely watching what I eat.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you get, like, camping, it feels like I love eating and I love cooking, you know this. Yeah. Like, so you get out there and you're like, man, you're on all these hunts, but we're eating and probably better than we were. Yeah. And it's something to go along with it. But I think the bigger thing is, instead of that week of hunting, you know, you got this kind of feast we're having and just having good times. And more leading up to that, I look at, there's a spot in my life, and this happened a few years ago. You know, I used to be able to just go out and I didn't have to do anything. I could just go out and hike, do whatever I wanted. I mean, I used to take a pack of Marlboros and Powerade.
Good times.
And I could go as far as I wanted, you know, and I was good with it, you know. Now I'm like, oh, I'd die.
That'd kill me.
Yeah, it'd kill me dead. I can't do that. But I went on that deer hunt the same year Cody got his good deer.
Okay.
And I hiked clear up in there. And that year leading up to that, you know, I wasn't the healthiest and
just like
work
overall
and everything. Yeah. And I got out there, went up there, finally found deer, hiked clear up in that canyon, in the blizzard, all the stuff, got out there. And by the time I got the deer, when I shot that deer, I went to pack it out. And any other year, I know what I'm capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought I was going to die up there. And I was so frustrated and upset with myself and just mentally, like I'd lost mentally that day. And I'm like, why am I even doing this? If I'm not going to do this, why am I even coming up? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's the only time in my life I sat there and thought, what would happen if I left a quarter up here, you know? Like, because I was so far up there. I didn't, so everybody knows. I had to go back in the next day after I had to go reset my mental state. But from then on, I told myself I'm not. And that was probably the worst like shape I'd ever been in at that point. And so now I wouldn't say I'm the regular gym person, but I do work out. Mm-hmm. I do run on the elliptical and do weights and stuff. And I've been doing it a lot better this year and lost a lot of weight from where I was. But just looking at what I eat, I still have my days where Kelsey and I grab a pizza. And
you gotta live
when we
life.
go on trips, you know, I am a foodie. Kelsey and I, that's one of our funnest part about going on a trip.
I know, I love it. And then you come back and show me pictures of all your stuff.
We go out to cool restaurants and find little dives and stuff, you know, and find food places. And that's one of our favorite things to do. So I do like food, but I think part of it's portions and not getting carried away with it.
Yeah. Did that moment up on the mountain make you kind of like assess certain things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, I just look at all the eating out, like work, all the eating out we did.
Because you drive a lot for work, so it's like easy.
Yeah, I'm in my truck a lot, and we go with people all the time, take people to lunch, people take us to lunch. It's like this, you know, and we don't go just to a McDonald's. We go sit down somewhere, and I'm like, man, day after day, I'm like, I cut back on that, and I won't go to lunch with people. I'll go here and there, but I don't do it like I used to, and I don't eat out. Now I just protein shake in the morning, coffee, and, you know, I'll eat out every once in a while. I did an interview with a guy today for a job, but I bought him lunch today. But the rest of the week, I won't.
Yeah.
I won't eat lunch, and I go home and Kelsey and I do something for dinner together.
Yeah. I think too, there's like a little bit of the mental aspect of like conquering that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I decided to stick to that.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I did it. And I'm feeling better.
Yeah, and then every once in a while, you know, you get those cravings at night. You're like, man, I need some ice cream. You know, Kelsey, we're going
do you have none?
Yeah, we have none. So it's like DoorDash, Cold Stone, you know, get the Cold Stone, McDonald's, something, you know, you go with these cravings. And some nights I do it. And then other nights I don't cave, and I'm like, so glad I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I'm not like a big sugar person. But when I do,
I'm not ever really.
Why don't we have anything?
I eat more out when we're hunting.
Yeah. Like the treats, the fun treats that we get.
And stuff. During the week, I don't.
Yeah. That's totally fine.
And every once in a while, it's just like, man, I need some chocolate. Like someone's going to give me some chocolate. That was the worst thing over come and chew, you know?
You've synced up with everyone in your house, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. Those are great tips. And I think it's important to like talk about that and know that people aren't alone in like the, shit changes after time. You can't just like take off with nothing in your backpack. Because Cody used to be the same way. He would just like take off with
Yeah.
maybe a water.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, don't you think? He's like, yeah, I should eat and I need to hydrate and
Yeah. Now
I need stuff or I'm not going to function like I want to tomorrow.
Yeah. Now when we go hiking, I have water.
Mm-hmm.
I have packets to put in my water.
Yeah.
I got my oranges,
Yeah.
my little protein packs,
Yep.
that I take out when we go hiking. And before I'd never do that.
Yeah. You live and learn.
Yeah.
Dang. After spending months on the mountain, hunting, soaking up all that natural sunlight, the days are now getting shorter and colder. I don't even have to tell you this. I personally have experienced that this time of year affects my vitamin D levels to be low, which impacts things like my mood and energy levels, just to name two things. I'm preparing to keep my vitamin D levels where they should be with the help of Mountain Op's vitamin D3 plus K2 gummies. These are delicious strawberry gummies that are a convenient way to help you get more vitamin D intake every day. Adding this to my daily routine has helped me conquer my days, whether I'm on the mountain, in the gym, working, or being a spouse and parent. You can get your Mountain Ops vitamin D3 plus K2 gummies at mountainops.com today. A few of our favorite other things in the cooler months that we love from Mountain Ops are their down jackets, their merino wool collections, their hoodies, the Slumber cider and salted caramel drinks. I love sipping on a warm drink in the winter. And we love our deep, restful, rejuvenating sleep. Hydration is also super important in the wintertime too. So be sure to check out their pineapple hydrate. It's the one back there. This is their new flavor and it seriously tastes like a Dole Whip. My kids love this hydrate. And because I just looked back there and I realized what else I have back there, Ignite. Need I say more? Energy and focus. To shop our favorites and help donate a meal to a child in need, go to mountainops.com and use our code BRITT, that's BRITT, for 20% off. Again, that's mountainops.com and use our code BRITT, BRITT, for 20% off.
Again, that episode is with Jeremey Black, and that is on his Utah Black Bear episode. We discuss all kinds of things there. It's fun when you get a friend in studio. This next clip is from one of our top episodes for health and wellness, and that is with Kayla Olson. She discusses male and female hormones and things that can help your hormones or things that may be detrimental to them. Kayla also discusses some stress management tools and a way to look at stress and how to go about your day-to-day, because stress is a huge factor when it comes to your hormones. And she gives useful tips and tools to be able to help manage your stress and your cortisol for both your hormone health and for your wellness and weight management help.
We're also individual, but all of us are kind of playing with hormones in a different kind of way. Mm-hmm. Are there tips that you have maybe for women and then also men when it comes to the importance of taking care of your hormones and maybe things that you're seeing often?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you're right on, like, especially women, it's hard to keep up on all of our changes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're just constantly, we're just here for the ride, basically.
Yeah, strap in.
Yes. So, like, especially what you said, like 30s, I mean, that is kind of like a good turning point is like 30s. When you really have to be like, oh, okay, what I'm doing is affecting my body, and especially my hormones, because they drive a lot of things. Like, I mean, they're very, very important in a lot of bodily functions. One of the biggest things that I have most of my patients do is definitely protein intake. Okay, like protein. I know there's a lot of like fad things about like intermittent fasting and keto diet and like all of these things, but a well-balanced, like getting 30 grams of protein per meal. Obviously, if we're like lifting and being like really physical, which I believe you do a lot of physical things, hunting, lifting, all the things, right?
Yeah.
So you need a lot more protein, right? But generally speaking, women that aren't doing that, intense stuff, about 30 grams of protein per meal is really, really important. And I do recommend a breakfast versus like a fasting situation. And like I said, it's a little bit different depending on what you're doing. And then men.
Yes.
I like if any of the guys that come to me listen to this, they'll probably laugh because I'm not going to lie. I put my guys kind of through the ringer before I put them on testosterone therapy. because this is where root cause comes in, okay?
Okay.
If they're excessive caffeine drinkers, not really lifting weights or doing anything, living a pretty sedentary lifestyle, not eating very good, chance are testosterone levels can be low and they can feel fatigued, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that, like, same thing with women, they're getting good protein intake. They're maybe doing some strength training. They're not drinking soda pop or something caffeine loaded. I mean, you can do like a pre-workout and stuff. That doesn't stress me out that much, right? But loaded, just added sugar soda all day long, they can't, I'm like, we got to fix that before I'm going to put you on testosterone therapy. Vitamin D is actually really important for testosterone
Oh,
as
interesting.
well, too. So
It's very so individual, especially when it comes to something like your hormones. Is there something like, as far as, because stress obviously does play such a large role, are there little basics for stress management that you have?
Yeah, so a lot of times I'll like recommend honestly walking because that's a decompressor,
Mm-hmm.
listening to a podcast or music that they like. I think a lot of times women just don't take time out for themselves to be like doing something they want.
Mm-hmm.
Like really 30 to 40 minutes is not asking a lot. And I get situations are very, very different. But stress relief, like walking, listening to something that they like to listen to, meditation is huge. I have a lot of women that struggle going to sleep at night, and so we do what we call a body scan for sleep. Have you ever heard of
Mm-mm.
one of those before?
No.
Usually, I think it's called Mindful in Minutes podcast. There's a body scan for sleep on there, but you could really find probably one a few places. But it just basically goes through your whole body and like has you relax, like your fingers or like your foot, or I mean, it goes through
Okay.
all of your
I
body
have
parts to
done that
relax
before
them.
through meditation. Yes.
Yeah. So
And you don't
it's
realize
just
like
called a
you're
body
clenching
scan.
your jaw. It's like,
Hmm.
tells you like,
Yeah,
relax your jaw, and you're like, oh,
I am.
relax
I
your
am stressed
brows.
out.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, for real though. So I mean, we'll do stuff like that. And if like women are really like, if they're single moms and like really have no one to help them, we honestly work on like breathing techniques of like
Mm,
taking 3 big deep breaths, like and maybe like magnesium to kind of help because that helps with stress as well too, and kind of calming the body and muscle tensions. So
okay.
I mean,
Uh,
individualized, but
Yes, definitely. Is magnesium something that you take in the evening that you recommend?
yes, magnesium glycinate is what helps sleep. So
Okay. I
yes,
know
that
there's
is definitely
different
something that you
types of
can take in there.
magnesiums.
Yes, so magnesium
Okay.
oxide and magnesium citrate are the other two. Magnesium glycinate is the one that I use the most. The other two can help with like constipation and those types of things. But
Oh,
magnesium glycinate is the sleeping
the sleeping.
one.
Okay. That's good to know. That's helpful because, yeah, a lot
And
of people don't realize
stress.
stress.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
stress.
Yeah. I know. I think it's just our world that's like fast moving and constant makes you feel stressed. But I don't know. I think personally me, like I've came a long ways on figuring out how to manage stress because I just felt I've always been that person that just does everything and it's fine and it's okay and you can just do it. And I think a lot of people, the more I've talked to people, they're just like that. Like, don't complain. Like, we're just going to keep going and I'm going to manage everything. But something I like to use for stress is, whether you're a mom or whatever you're doing, we're all doing a lot of things and we're juggling a lot of balls, but we have glass balls and we have plastic balls, and you can drop the plastic balls. The glass balls are, your kids, your family, maybe, if your job, I mean, obviously most jobs are important, but you can let the dishes in the sink. That's a plastic ball that can stay for a minute. That can be dropped. Or even laundry. Like sometimes I'm just piling my kids' laundry up and not folding it. It's clean, but they just have to go through it and find it. You know what I mean?
Same. Yeah.
So I think it's just us being able to be like, okay, this is important, but this isn't that important right now. We don't have to have the Instagram worthy house every 5 seconds. Like, so I think that's a lot of people coming to themselves as well too, of being like, hey, we can live a relaxed lifestyle if we kind of choose to,
Yeah.
So I
I
mean,
love
I
that
don't know. It's just
analogy.
personal growth. Yeah. Yeah. So That's a helpful stress analogy right there.
That's a good one. Everyone will have to go back to that and remember, was this a glass ball or
Yeah.
a plastic ball?
Yep.
That's a
And you
great
can
tip.
label them. Yep. So, yeah.
Is there a current trend that you're seeing over social media in the health and wellness space that you don't currently love? Does that put you
Yeah.
on the spot?
Well, I mean, I guess I kind of already talked about, I mean, semaglutide, the GLP-1 agonist drugs, and weight loss. I mean, I see like people's before and afters, and I lost 50 pounds in 3 months. And it frustrates me because, and I even see it in my community, people want the easiest, cheapest way to lose weight, right? And there's just, I don't know, I don't think people realize like how much damage that they're doing by not doing it the right way. And metabolism, just overall health outcomes, gaining weight back. I mean, I think that's, if I were to say one, that's one of my biggest things right now. And skinny doesn't mean healthy. I think people are they're seeing all the success, or even and I think that's why I'm kind of relatable. Like I still have my C-section weight. Like I'm not the bulkiest, most toned person ever. So, and I'm okay with that. And I think I want people to be okay with themselves as well too. Like if you're doing all of the right things and you're taking care of yourself and you feel good, like you do not have to look a certain way, and you're not going to.
Yeah.
And the women that are toned and look amazing, like I'm so happy. Like they are awesome. And I'm sure if they feel good, like I want them to just feel good. That's all that I want. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's kind of pushing we should look a certain way and be a certain way when it's not the healthiest. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. No, it does make sense. And
Yeah.
I think those are things like even when you are in a good headspace, like I feel like obviously you are, and I've come a long ways, but it's easy to get that like little inkling of like, well, if I only looked a little more like this, and it's like, no, look how far you've
Right.
come and where you are mentally and physically so aligned. Like that
Yeah,
is beauty in itself, and also maintaining it too, because
for
that's
sure.
important.
For sure. And that's I think what I like a lot of it, whether it's through the Do Good or even in my clinic, like I want women to just be comfortable with who they are and not compare
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And I think when we get those habits and we know how to take care of ourselves, it becomes empowering,
Mm-hmm.
and it's confidence from the inside out. Like
If you want to listen to the full episode with Kayla, you can look for that episode below. That title is Kayla Olson.
Just because the weather's getting colder doesn't mean you shouldn't be thinking about upgrading your cooler. We still have plenty of adventures to take, food to keep cold while you're going on them, and you want to keep them from getting soggy. There's nothing worse than reaching in for like your snack and the paper's wet and soggy or your cheese is soggy. Plus, you want to be able to keep those drinks cold, keep those mountains blue and the water refreshing after that hike. Not to mention, be able to keep your meat cold on the way to the butcher or taking it home. So, where are you going to put all that? In a cooler that's ultra lightweight? Are you going to be able to keep those drinks cold, those mountains blue, and your food organized? Are you going to be able to keep those snacks easily accessible? How about knowing that your cooler can float upright every time? No need to panic on the duck boat anymore. Rugged Road Coolers offer all this. And they have new sizing. They have the smaller V25. This can hold up to 25 12-ounce cans. It's kind of like a cool, bigger version of a lunch pill, but it still has all of our favorite features of the Rugged Road, the flip top, and the snack rack. Plus, now they have the big daddy of them all, the 115. This sucker will hold some meat, and we're excited ours is currently on its way. Like I mentioned, the Rugged Road is ultra lightweight. As you can see, one hand, it has this flip top, which I think would be super nice come duck season to be able to, one, sit on an extra bench, and then two, be able to sit and make your food on something, some cup holders as well. And then, like I mentioned, inside it does have the snack rack. So you've got a place to put your things, a divider, so you know whose drinks go where and what. and it has top of the line ice retention. To get your new cooler, go to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use our code LONG, that's LONG, for 10% off your next cooler. Tell them we sent you by going to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use our code LONG again for 10% off your next order.
Now leaning more towards the motivation and inspiration. I know so many of us have goals moving into 2025, and in this episode, I discuss with Megan Hunt about writing a book and what that looked like. However, this is so much more than just writing a book. She really showcases the beauty and inspiration as to why, even if you're not looking to write a book per se, you're just feeling more inspired to share your story, because we each have our own unique stories. This clip really gives you some motivation and gives you an insight as to why it is important to share our unique stories. And she does this by sharing both her story and her daughter Rocky's story as a burn survivor.
So I think that in those moments of uncertainty, in those moments of trauma, in those moments of like you just feel like the world's spinning around you, lean into yourself and know you have the skill set. You know what your babies need. Use your voice. Use it. Even if it doesn't make any sense to anybody else, speak up, speak out, because you know what that baby needs. And just go all in with it. You know, like life is short and you just have to take advantage of every second that you have and give it 110. Go all in on every moment you're given.
Mm-hmm. Such beautiful advice. And you've definitely had time, I think, to also like look back at things with gratitude. And that's always the biggest word I use for everything. Is it's
For
so
sure.
bizarre to be in a moment like that and feel nothing but gratitude.
Yeah.
It's like, how am I feeling that right now? You know, everyone's confused, but you've had that. And I think as you are talking, you're saying certain people are brought into this for certain reasons. And it seems like for a while you had the inkling that maybe it was to share your guys' story and to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
When did the epiphany to write a book come about, and how did that process all play out?
Writing for me is a passion. So I have been a journaler my entire life. Like I started journaling when I was probably like my first journal I started when I was 3. I mean, obviously it's scribbled pictures, but it's dated. I have written in my journal almost daily my entire life. I find it's very healing for me. It's an easy way to just put it all out there. I always wanted to write books. The hardest part though was like I had so much inside that every time I would sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to write my first book. I wouldn't know where to start. I'm like, how do you even start writing a book? Like I have so much to say. And so I've started 1,000 books, you know, but I've just never narrow down like, how do you start? And so I remember laying awake. I never sleep. You can probably relate to this. I never sleep the night before a surgery. Even still, I, go through the routine, shower Rocky, get her all prepped, braid her hair, because I know in the morning we have to wake up and she can't eat and she can't brush her teeth. And I want her to feel as beautiful as possible going into that. And so I take as much time as I can. We paint toenails and fingernails and we do all the things. And then I just hold her. And we've done, I've lost count of surgeries now. And so, but I always just hold her. I'll snuggle, if we're in a hotel room or family, wherever we are, I just hold her in my arms and listen to her breathe. And I just go into the process of the journey that we've gone on and expressions of gratitude to be where we are, to have the opportunity for another surgery that can help bring, mobility back into her life or functionality. And so it was on one of these occasions about 2 years ago. I believe it probably would have been the surgery before we went in for her face operation. I remember just holding her, and I was quite emotional that night, just processing. And I was just thinking about my little girl and that moment I talked about earlier of her bouncing on that little piece of wood out in the woods before she was burned. And then I had, thought of all the different faces that she had worn through this journey and how tired I felt like her body felt in my arms. And I just heard that phrase in my mind, 1,000 faces. My daughter's worn 1,000 faces. And that was it for me. It was like, that's the title to my book. That's what I've been waiting for. And I remember pulling my phone out and I just started typing. Like I pulled up a note in my phone and I just started typing, and my alarm went off hours later to get ready to go to the hospital. And I had written like, oh my heavens, pages on my phone. I had just started putting it all out there. So that was the beginning for 1,000 Faces for me. It was a really easy write. It did take me 2 years. When I say easy, like anyone who's wrote a book understands writing a book is not an easy process. But the story was there. You know, I drew a lot of it from my journal. I went through my journal and I pulled the pieces out. I think writing the book wasn't the hard part. Organizing the book was the hard part. You know, putting it in an order that would make sense to a reader, and to figure out, you know, like, why am I writing this? Am I writing it because I need to let this out of myself, or am I doing this? What's my why? And really establishing that. But I've already got, like, I'm almost finished with my next book. And so I think that was the doorway for me to like find how I write and why I want to write. But writing her story was an honor. I remember saying that a lot of times in the hospital in her journey of like, I can't wait until she's old enough for me to express gratitude to her personally. Like, thank you for letting me be a part of your journey, for letting me be on the sidelines, your cheerleader. Thank you for letting me be your ride or die, and having her actually understand that. And so this book for me was an opportunity for me to express gratitude to my daughter for allowing me to tell her story. I do hope she writes her own book someday that tells the real side. You know, I wrote my side of the story, but hers, I can't even comprehend what she could write, you know, what your son could write, what all these burn survivors in the world could write. And I hope that my book inspires more people to tell their stories. And not even major trauma stories, but, you know, Brittney, like your story, like, you know, everyone has something trapped inside of them. We're all one of one. We're all miracles, and we all have gone on different journeys and quests. And I think that so often the culture is like, just hide it away, put on your makeup, curl your hair, get out there, girl. But what if the thing trapped inside of you is the thing that you were here to share? You know, what if that thing was the reason you're here, and that thing inside of you can inspire someone who's thinking they want to quit, thinking they want to give up? And so my hope is that I can reach as many people as possible and encourage them to tell their truth.
That's beautiful. And that's so powerful too, that the book has so much more meaning than just, you know, the story of her accident, because there is so much more to her and to the story. And I know personally, like, the lessons I've learned over the last 6 months, I can't imagine the lessons you've learned, but just the lessons, you know I personally learned over the last 6 months from watching not only Rivers and how we've had to adapt and change as a family, but also the lessons learned from, you know, your husband and your other kids as they've gone through the process as well. Yeah, there's so many more life lessons learned than just how to do wound care and take care of someone with burns.
Yeah. Well, and I think those things are important, you know, even that element is like, you learned a whole new skill set.
I did.
You can now be a nurse and you wouldn't even have to do anything. You could just go for it. But I do think that, you know, I always tell people, I'm like, we were living a good life before Rocky's accident, but Rocky's accident helped us really get on path and really get on purpose and realize, like, I mean, everything shifted for us. Our perspective of money shifted. Our perspective of time shifted. It was like, we have here and now. What are we doing with it? Let's go all in. Let's make as many memories as possible. Let's just stop the way the world tells you to be. Just stop. Just go all in with your heart, with your family, with your passions. And I love watching that with you and your family. Like, every time you post. I love it. Like, you're with your
Thank you.
boys and you're out there and you're enjoying every second you guys have together, and you're not allowing this situation to slow you guys down at all. I mean, I know there's moments. I get that there's moments. It's hard when the rest of the world is still spinning off and you're like, I'm still in trauma over here. But you guys you're grabbing another year, and I'm so excited to see what comes for you personally because of experiencing this with Rivers. This will blow every dream you have wide open in the best way.
Well, thank you. It's like, it's crazy because I'm like allowing myself to look back and think on things more. And one thing that like I've really taken away is not only just the time together, but like you said, not getting so wrapped up in everything else.
Yeah.
Because I think I've spoke on this before, but like time just felt different in the hospital, like time
Absolutely.
together. And it's like, I want to encapsulate that in, the reality of life moving forward. And I think we've done a good job with that, but also like the things that have been learned too, I think, and I'm sure you can understand this, is like the discipline in which you have to have as not only the caregiver, but watching the discipline that these kids have to take care of their bodies.
For sure.
Is unlike anything else.
Yeah.
There's not grown adults that I think can do that, and to watch them be so disciplined with that and knowing that they need to, I think has really shifted our mindset too, as a family, and even just taking that, into business and what we want to do in the future.
Absolutely.
There's just so everyone kind of knows, like a little quote out of the book to give you an idea, and Megan said it beautifully of what she wants to do. I just loved this part, is it's a story of a little warrior who completely changed your life and perspective of what is possible. And that's definitely kind of what we're saying here, is the warriors that are out there. And she's like the queen of all those warriors. I could just see her like battled up and ready, just out on the front line, leading the way with a plan.
Oh, yeah.
That episode can be found by looking for Megan Hunt. And this last clip is a solo clip from me. This is, I think, if I believe right, my first episode back after taking a little bit of a break and the beginning of 2024. And this was kind of reassessing life, having these epiphanies. As you heard in that clip with Megan, that clip is an emotional one for me because of what we had been through the last year with my son Rivers, and as a family, as him being a bird survivor. And this clip, I really go through and I let you know what works for me over these years, really kind of finding myself, getting back to me. And again, like I talked about, that swift kick in the ass, going through and auditing yourself so that way you can be the best version of you and what works for you, not me, not your buddy, what works for you, so that way you're showing up for yourself, your business, your family, the things that are important to you.
I know everyone right now is going through and taking a look at their lives, trying to be the best version of themselves. And a lot of that is through, eating right, taking care of yourself. And of course that made the list. But a lot of this is like the mental work that's gone into place. And I will be the first person to tell you that I am not perfect. If you don't think that I cried last week, then you'd be mistaken. And if I don't have to continue to work on these things. And that is honestly kind of why I decided to share them, because not that long ago, I had to take a little bit of an audit of myself and be like, okay, these are the things that keep you together, keep you moving, make you into the best version of yourself. Let's take a little look at this and see what it is we're missing and what we need to maybe put back into place or what can shift. So I hope these can help you guys out. It's always good, I think, to take little pieces of someone's routine that you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense, or I think I would really enjoy that, and adding it into yours and making what works work for you, because everyone is so different. So let's start off. The first thing I have on here is journaling, and I want to get with these very detail oriented, what I mean by everything and like how I go about them. So before I even started journaling, I went through and I audited myself. And you'll hear me mention audit a lot because I think it is important to sit back and audit your life in many different aspects. And this came from, I believe, Ed Milet, his book Max Out, if I remember correctly. He talks about figuring out your pillars and what makes the best version of you and living by those, and then also kind of figuring out what makes you feel blah. So go through and edit, like, okay, these are the things that make me feel incredible. When, for instance, like when I'm moving my body, when I'm making progress both in my business or within myself, when I'm keeping promises to myself, when I'm fueling my body, when I'm spending time with my family, when I'm getting ready each day. Like, the list could go on. And then a lot of times you want to go through, and these are, like I said, a lot of times opposite of what maybe your high vibe is, but what makes you feel like shit? Like, truly, what makes you feel that way? Is it scrolling? Is it disassociating? Is it maybe being short tempered? Is it not planning your day accordingly? Is it having a messy environment? Go through and really audit yourself and your life and figure out when you're functioning at your best, what is it that you're doing? And then when you're feeling shitty, what is it you're doing? And that way you can kind of map out your actions and like your personality traits on what makes you the best version of yourself. So I go through and figure that out first thing, because this will kind of dictate the rest of the 5 things, if you will. And then I journal. So audit first thing, then journal. I personally like journaling. I know a lot of people maybe like doing meditation. That's always a great thing, or a to-do list. So I do a little bit of melody of both. It kind of depends on my day, but I like being able to, some things that's on my list for like my auditing and my pillar is I tend to function best if I can get up before the kids, usually. Reverse is hard to beat sometimes. But if I can get up before the kids, have at least like 1 cup of coffee and maybe like 30 minutes to myself to kind of start my morning nice and slow so it doesn't hop into chaos. And with that is when I do my journal. So in my journal, I do a short to do. So those are like the 3 things I need to accomplish today. And like if I get those 3 things done, then I am happy. And yes, there's always way more things to get done than 3, but like these are my 3 top priorities. And writing those down, sometimes it helps to put down like your dinner too, because I find that if I know what I'm going to make first thing in the morning versus at 4 o'clock or when everyone's starving, then I feel like I'm vibing higher and I'm functioning better, and it's one less thing to worry about. And then underneath that, I put my good vibes or my prayers, and I just write out good vibes, and then I can write, maybe someone that I'm thinking about, or something that's on my mind, and I kind of just sit with that for a minute and send out, my good vibes or my prayers, or like what it is that I really am wanting to send that energy towards. And then underneath that, I write the mood. This really helps set the tone for the day. I find if I write my mood, like sometimes it might be like listening to moody music while I work out or something, but most of the time I'm finding that I'm switching my mood to not even so much like the mood of the day, but the tone in which I want to feel throughout the day. And that could be something like sitting down and recording an episode that I feel really confident in putting out with, or will be like having a calm and peaceful environment to hang out in, or getting shit done, feeling progress. That can be the mood. And then underneath that, I write what I'm grateful for. And this is usually a pretty big paragraph of just where I like to sit and what I'm grateful for. Sometimes this can be like my cup of coffee, my blanket, my dog, my chickens, my family. And other times it's like moments that I got to experience the day prior to, or the weekend of, or just the most simple things too. I find when I'm putting pen to paper, it really, for me, is powerful. So even just like writing, like I'm grateful that our fridge is stocked and I'm able to make good and healthy dinners and also have some fun treats in the pantry. Like just the simplest things to be grateful for go such a long ways. I need a drink. And then underneath this, I write my goals. And these can be my goals for the day, the week, the month, a year, 5 years prior to, my big, crazy, scary, am I ever going to achieve these goals? Yes, you are. Then I write those underneath there. And I like to get really specific with these. And again, this varies. And it's pretty crazy, I think, too, once you start journaling, and this is where it's really fun, is to go back and to look at things that you once had as goals that now you've achieved and you didn't even realize it, or because it's been so slow of progress, looking back and being like, that's pretty cool. Like I did that. And just even in the way that you write your goals too, like your goals may come to fruition in a different way than what you were expecting maybe when you wrote it down, but nonetheless, you hit your goals. And then underneath that, I find too, writing my goals for the day like really lights a fire under my ass. Like, fuck yes. Yeah, I am. So writing my goals every day really helps me like not feel blah and just want to like crawl back into bed, if you will. And your goals can be whatever your goals, like in your physique, your fitness, whatever you want your goals to be. And underneath that, I write my high vibe, aka the best version you want to be. So this is like the person I want to embody for the day. And when I talked about going through and figuring out my pillars and what makes me the best version of myself, a lot of times these are what is written down there, and maybe the vibe that I need to embody for the day to be able to accomplish the goals above, and the to-do list as well. And so this kind of just like helps me set the tone for the day. High vibe things that I write down, for example, would be like to be calm and present, because I have to work on that sometimes. To be moving within my business, to be thinking outside the box, to not disassociate, to not sit and doom scroll. Just writing like the high vibes where it's usually not like the negative. It's usually like be ambitious, make progress in your business, think outside the box, you know, move your body, be calm, be present, be loving, reach out to someone. And that is kind of how I sit and journal. And again, you could even just sit in these thoughts and that would be super helpful. But again, I really do think there's something powerful with pen to paper. And then also you can go back and look at things, which is, again, really exciting.
I hope with these episodes you have gotten a little bit of fire under your ass and you are excited for what 2025 has to come. Whenever you're listening to this episode, again, it doesn't have to be a new year to be a new you. You can start at any point. Like I mentioned in one of my clips, the time is going to pass anyways, and that is something that I continue to remind myself, and I'm grateful that I have, because you look back on time and there's been times in my life where I thought, wow, if I would have just done it then. Yes, everything's in God's timing, as you'll hear in one of my episodes, but the time's gonna pass anyways. What are you gonna do with it? I hope this inspires you to get out, get started, make some changes in your life, maybe have an honest conversation with yourself, and be inspired to do all the things that you have coming in 2025 or that you're inspired to do, whether that's in business, in life, just showing up for yourself better, or maybe a big hunt you have coming up. I can tell you from personal experience, there's nothing better knowing that like you left it all out on the mountain and you look back and think, God damn, like I am an athlete. My mindset's there. My body's able to do what I want it to and even maybe surprise me a little bit. And I hope you find that through this episode. Again, if you are listening to this episode and you enjoyed something from it, you took something away, please don't forget to share it on social media. That really helps us right now, especially with the algorithm not being so kind to anybody that posts hunting stuff. The best way to combat that is to share about us. Go to our, I know, but it's helpful, guys. Go to our posts, like, comment, share, tag people that you know. It really does just kind of like give the middle finger to the algorithm and keep your favorite. I'm not even saying this just for my account, but it helps. Thank you. Your favorite hunting creators, podcasts, whatever it may be. It really does help kind of, like I said, give the algorithm the middle finger and keep pushing that out to the people that care and want to hear more about that. Thanks for bringing reckoning with you guys into 2025.